Chapter 2. Lot's wife, the fatal glance back. The sky above Sodom was unnaturally dark, swirling with clouds that churned as if in anticipation of something dreadful. The air was thick, suffocating, and though the streets were filled with life just a day before, now they were deathly quiet. The only sound was the hurried footsteps of Lot and his family as they fled the city that had been their home for so many years. And in that silence, I remember the moment it all went wrong. Her name has been lost to time, but Lot's wife was known in Sodom. She was part of the city's elite, a woman of wealth, status, and influence. The life she had built there wasn't one she wanted to leave behind easily. I saw her the day the angels came, their presence so out of place in the debauchery that filled the city. They warned Lot and his family of the impending destruction, of the divine judgment that was coming for the wickedness that had consumed Sodom and Gomorrah. But even then, I saw the doubt in her eyes. She didn't want to go. Lot, her husband, had hesitated too, pleading with the angels to spare the small town of Zoar as their refuge instead of sending them to the mountains. But Lot's wife, her hesitation was different. It was born out of something deeper. It wasn't just fear of the unknown that gripped her. It was something far more insidious, attachment. She was tethered to Sodom, tied to its luxuries, its comforts, its vices. Leaving wasn't just about physical survival for her, it was about abandoning the life she had come to love. The angels have been clear, don't look back. They weren't merely warning them to keep moving forward. No, it was a command for their hearts and minds, to sever the connection with the sinful city completely. But I could see it in her eyes. As we hurried through the city streets, her steps were slower, her reluctance stronger than the fear driving her forward. The fires hadn't started yet, but there was a tension in the air, like the world itself was holding its breath. We ran through the outskirts of Sodom, Lot pulling her by the hand, their daughters trailing behind. The heat rising from the ground began to pulse through our sandals, and the air thickened with the smell of sulfur. The angel's words echoed in my head as we reached the safety of the plains: run. Don't stop. Don't look back. But in the moment we crossed over into safety, I heard it, her footsteps faltering. Then came the unmistakable silence. I turned, just for a second, my heart racing as I saw what she had done. Lot's wife had stopped. She had turned back toward Sodom. I saw it all in an instant, the city she loved burning in the distance. Smoke poured into the sky as flames engulfed the city walls, spreading through every street and alley. The screams of those left behind echoed in the distance, lost in the rising wind. But her gaze was locked on the burning city, her heart still clinging to it, as if the life she'd left behind was worth the destruction raining down upon it. I saw her eyes, wide, filled with regret but also longing, a desperate desire to hold on to what was already gone. And in that moment, as her feet rooted to the ground, she became part of the landscape she couldn't bear to leave. Her skin hardened first. Her body stiffened, her arms frozen mid-reach, as if she was still grasping for something beyond the smoke. It was unlike anything I had ever seen before. The transformation was swift, her soft flesh turning brittle, grainy, until it was no longer flesh at all, but salt. I wanted to shout, to pull her forward, but it was too late. Her form twisted, solidifying in place, a grotesque monument to disobedience. Lot's wife became a pillar of salt, standing there as a stark reminder of the dangers of looking back. She was now a part of the barren wasteland, a statue left to watch the destruction unfold, but unable to move or change the fate she had chosen. The wind swept around her, her form crumbling slightly in the breeze, but still, she stood, a caution, a warning. I couldn't look for long. We were instructed to keep moving, to head to Zoar without stopping. But the image of her frozen figure stayed with me, a haunting reminder of what happens when you allow your heart to stay trapped in the past. Lot didn't look back. His daughters didn't either. But the weight of what had happened was palpable. Their mother was gone, not because of the fire or the destruction of Sodom, but because she couldn't let go of it. Lot's wife wasn't a villain in the same way others were. She didn't kill or steal or betray anyone else. But in that moment, her sin was as grave as any. It was the sin of divided loyalty, the inability to let go of a world destined for ruin. She had been given the chance to escape, to start anew, to be saved. And yet, she chose to linger in the past. In the midst of God's mercy, she clung to the very thing He was trying to rescue her from. Her story is a warning, a tale not just of fire and brimstone but of the consequences of failing to fully trust God's plan. She was given a path to life but chose instead to look back at a life that was already condemned. And in that choice, she lost everything, standing forever as a pillar of salt, a monument to a moment of hesitation that cost her eternity. Her fate wasn't just tragic, it was avoidable. But the pull of the past can be strong, even stronger than the promise of the future. Lot's wife, in her longing for what was, missed out on what could have been, her final act one of looking back when she should have been moving forward. You've just uncovered one of the most pivotal stories in our Bad Girls of the Bible series, where we dive deep into the choices that shaped history. Don't let the lesson stop here. Like this video if it gave you a fresh perspective, share it with others who need to hear these powerful truths, and subscribe to follow the rest of the series. Each story will challenge you, inspire you, and strengthen your walk with God. Join us on this journey of faith, where every decision counts.